Are you a lawyer who's been grinding it out and feeling high levels of stress in your day-to-day practice? My name is Laurel Dietz, and I'm the owner of Alinea Legal Coaching. Alinea Legal Coaching is a family law firm that offers exclusively legal coaching and unbundled legal services. So yes, I'm going to tell you there is a way that you can practice differently so that you can gain more control over your day and experience less stress from the day-to-day. In this video, I'm going to describe a few little tweaks that you can make immediately to your practice so that you can start offering legal coaching and unbundled services today. I started my legal coaching practice in 2016. And when I say I started my legal coaching practice, I mean I started with nothing. I just had an idea that perhaps there was a different way to offer legal services. And then I spent about 7 years trying out different ways and different methods about how to offer the services, how to price the services, how to sell the services to clients, and how to avoid scope creep. Scope creep meaning me being on the hook for something that I didn't initially sign up to do and that maybe I wasn't being paid for. The last thing that I also wanted to make sure was that my clients were successful using these services so that they kept coming back for more help. So right now I have a full practice with my legal coaching and unbundled legal services. And I have clients who are happier than ever with their legal services. And I collect about 100% of my accounts owing. I have less stress from day to day. I choose my hours. I don't have after-hour demands on my time, and I have more flexibility away from the demands of the typical court schedule. Okay, so why develop a legal coaching practice, right? Everything's working well for you, you're grinding it out, things are going great. Well, let me tell you something. Just because you love your practice as it is now doesn't mean you can't love it even a little bit more. So legal coaching clients are more accountable than your standard full representation clients. They don't expect you to take on their problems, which is amazing. Because they expect to be fighting their own battles, they come in with much more reasonable expectations of the potential outcome. And they are much faster to reach reasonable conclusions about various steps and procedures that they need to take. Because they don't hide behind me to do their dirty work and they have a hand in the outcome, they don't typically assign blame for negative outcomes. So there is a profound respect that comes with understanding exactly how the sausage is made. And because the clients are doing the hard work themselves, they have a huge respect for what they're able to achieve as part of the outcome. So I'll tell you this. There's about 1 million different ways you could probably offer legal coaching and unbundled services. It is truly the Wild West out there, and there are lots of people out there who are innovating and trying out new things. But I suspect if you're watching this video, it's because you're busy and you have a lot to do and you don't want to go through the last 7 years that I went through trying out different ways to see if it works for you. So I'm going to share with you the few tweaks that you can make today, as I said, that have worked for me after 7 years of testing and trying different methods. And I'm testing and trying not only with my time, but my earning capacity. So, if you want to skip to the end and know how to do it, keep watching. And so again, I'll just say, yes, you could do it another way. And yes, you might be able to innovate a better idea. I don't doubt that for a second, but I didn't want to take you on the journey to discovery. I wanted to just skip you forward to the answers. And so there are 3 services that I would say are fundamental to any legal coaching practice. I'm going to talk about one in this video because it's the most fundamental, the most key piece, the one that people keep coming back time and time again for more help. And if you've thought about offering unbundled legal coaching services before, or you even tried it out, you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed about how to do it, and it just seems really messy every single time you get into one of these unbundled situations. And so that's probably because each time a new client comes into your office, you're figuring out, oh, what is the scope of my service today? What is it that I provide? And when do I stop providing this service? How much do I charge for this particular service? How much do I collect in advance? Because we don't really know how much they're going to use, right? Or do I just hope they pay my bill afterwards? Then after that, you might be thinking, Jesus, this min portion of this file is just not worth the reward. I'm not billing enough on this to make it worth getting my assistant involved. So why am I working so hard to earn less money? Okay, so the issue that you're encountering with offering legal coaching services right now is that you don't have a set scope, you don't have a set price for what you're offering. You don't have clear rules about what you will provide, and you don't know what you're going to provide. So if you're stuck figuring this out every single time a new client walks into your office, you're going to spend hours upon hours wasting time sitting down with that client and discussing with them what it is exactly is it that we're going to provide. And I'll tell you what, your client doesn't know what they want. They have never encountered a legal issue like this before. They know that they have some skills, maybe reading, writing, they can speak well for themselves, but they have no idea what it is that you do. And so they can't come to you with a menu and say like, yes, I think I'm going to be doing this part of it, and I might be doing a little bit of the drafting. No, that's bullshit. What you have to do is you've got to tell them the rules for your services and how you provide those services. They don't know how to consume your services. So, like I said, a key piece to making any legal coaching or unbundled practice work for you is you need to set your rules in advance, and you need to clearly communicate those rules to your client. And you cannot deviate or avoid sticking to your rules. You must stick to your rules. So I will say this, if you are like me at all, you're probably really shit at enforcing your own rules. And you'll always want to make exceptions. So what I strongly recommend is you work with an admin professional. You come up with your set of rules, you communicate those to your admin professional, and your admin professional will enforce your rules for you. Don't give yourself the chance to break your own rules, and you'll be a much, much happier lawyer. So I'm here to tell you what the rules are that I've developed for my practice. And if you want to take these rules and apply them to your own situation with maybe a few changes here and there, then I am confident that you'll be able to offer legal coaching and unbundled services immediately. So with these rules, you won't have to think twice about what it is you're offering and what it is you're doing and how much you're charging for it. And if that won't work for the client that comes into your office asking for these legal coaching or unbundled services, then that's totally fine. You can just tell them to move along to the next service provider, and you will wait for those clients who are happy to fit into your model. So the fundamental service that you offer to your clients, whether it's legal coaching or a regular full representation, is going to be the consult. Because we're talking about legal coaching and unbundled, what we have to do is carve out the service and put some firm lines around what you're offering here. Now, this means let's package it. So in any consult package, I include 3 things. There's the preparation for the meeting, there's the meeting, and there's the follow-up package. All 3 components are important to ensure that your clients have success. Okay, so let's start with the first part, preparation. Now, this is almost as important as the meeting itself. Now, I'll include in there maybe a review of an intake form, review of some documents, but I do limit scope as to how much I'm going to review in advance of the meeting. But what I do to make sure that my client can have success is that I take the time well in advance of the meeting to figure out why exactly is it the client wants this meeting. And I just do that by sending out an email and asking them to fill me in on what they need to have covered. And so the preparation here is key to making sure that the client can walk away from the meeting with actionable steps. And so I will take time at the beginning before I have the meeting to even write out the advice that I anticipate that I'm probably going to give them on that phone call. And this makes my follow-up very efficient and very quick. So then you have the meeting. This is going to be, as I said, in real time. So it's going to be face-to-face, Zoom, by phone, whatever. Now, the key part of this is you're going to have a set amount of time that you're going to be having this meeting for, obviously, right? You're going to book it in your calendar for a certain amount of time, but you're going to want to make sure that you're not going over, right? So that can be a thing. You book an hour meeting or you book half an hour meeting and often you go to 45 minutes. It's loosey-goosey. It's fine if you're just on the clock. But when you're doing unbundled legal coaching, you've got to tighten up those timelines. So I'll get to this later, but this gets into how you price your legal coaching and unbundled services. You're going to do it flat fee. And so it's really critical that you don't go over. If you're going to struggle with notifying the client when their time is at an end, the best way to deal with that is just put a timer on your phone. You notify them that if they want to extend, they're going to have to pay a little bit more money. And to ensure that your client has some transparency there on your part, your admin person can tell them in advance, ask them in advance, do you want to stick to this set time that you're choosing to have the consult for, or are you okay if you need to extend? Now, each meeting matters, okay? It can't simply be an information gathering session for the lawyer, and it can't simply be you just thinking through the problem out loud, okay? And this is why your preparation is so key, because you need to be ready to hit the ground running. and be able to immediately inform the client of their legal position so that they can understand it in some detail, so that they can be able to make decisions on the next steps that they're wanting to take, right? And so just as a little bit of a guide, what I would do for a longer meeting is the first third might be gathering the additional information I need that they haven't told me about yet. The middle portion might be brainstorming and discussing with the client various options and ascertaining what the client is capable and comfortable with doing themselves and developing their plan for next steps. And then the final portion of the meeting is going to be explaining the steps of the plan in detail with enough nuance on how to execute the plan. Hi, Laurel here. I'm not exactly sure what happened when I was filming this YouTube video, but for some reason I forgot to film a key piece of it, the follow-up report piece. Anyway, so I thought what I would do, instead of refilming the entire video, I would just do a voice recording, and you can enjoy some pictures of my dog Janice while I talk you through what you're supposed to do next. So the follow-up package is a critical piece in helping your legal coaching clients be successful and coming back for more help. The client definitely needs something to refer back to after the meeting to know what they discussed and what they need to do next. They understood, sure, in the meeting, but I guarantee you, within seconds of the meeting ending, they will have forgotten pieces or confused it. Even worse, if they're frantically taking their own notes, they might have written something down wrong. So this report is not really a comprehensive opinion letter or a cover your ass letter. This is just simply a document with coherent notes of what was discussed and decided on at the meeting. If it wasn't said verbally, it doesn't need to be written. So as I said before, if you really want to stay on track, at the meeting and you're able to forecast the advice that you're going to be sharing with the client, then you can write these reports out in advance, and then that will really make sure that your meeting is effective and efficient. Next, you have your little package, you got your prep, you got your meeting, you got your follow-up. Now you need to price it. And as I said before, flat fee billing is where it's at. I'll tell you, the number one thing that my clients love is knowing exactly what they're going to pay before they come into my office. And this is why they come back time and time again. There are zero surprises. And even better, I post my prices on my website. It saves me the stress and anxiety of having to have the constant price conversation over and over again. It builds trust with potential clients. And people can secretly peruse your website and decide if they want to pay that, prioritize their money for the services that you're offering. And you don't have to convince them of it. I'll tell you, distrust is really built when your prices are a mystery or surprise, or they come with a hard sell. No one wants your secrets. No one wants your surprise. No one wants your hard sell. If you're like me, you just want to help people solve problems. You don't want to be a salesperson. So I save time on people calling me and dancing around the price of my services by just being blunt, straightforward. It's on my website. Just check it out. Everyone gets the same treatment, okay? And I'll tell you what, your clients will self-select for you. Now, if you're part of a larger firm or a mid-sized firm, you might not be able to put your prices on your website, but if you had a price list in advance, your admin professional could easily share that information. If you don't have an admin professional, you'll have your price list and you won't second guess yourself. It's there, no deals, no discounts, no wiggling around there. A nice thing, if you do have that trusty admin person working for you, it's nice for them to have clear guidelines on what the cost of your services are, and so they can enforce these prices for you. And you will not be tempted to discount your time, because by the time the client is talking to you on that consult, their money is already in trust and they're committed to the cost of the session. Okay, so how do you do a flat fee service? Okay, first step, of course, isolate the service you're providing. We've agreed it's the consult here, okay? Next thing you need to determine the length of time of the consult. Okay, so I offer 5 different lengths of time. The first is a required strategy session. So every single one of my clients who are coming for consultation need to do this initial strategy session. It's an hour and a half long. The reason I require it is because it gives me a chance to get to know the client and their situation so that any future consultation is going to be a success. And I'm not feeling like I don't have enough background. Like if you want people always want the cheapest option available. So inevitably people would book in for the shortest amount of time to see if they like you or not, and see if you can give them good advice. It's never going to be enough time for you to get to know their situation, which is why I require the strategy session. But once they've finished that, I allow them to book in any length of consult they want. So that could be 15-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute, or 1 hour. Now, this is a very simple structure and it has worked for all of my clients. Now, when I price this, I factor in the unseen services. So I know that for my strategy session, I'm going to need usually 45 minutes to prepare, and that I'm going to need at least 45 minutes to an hour to follow up. So then I look at that hour and a half. So it's about 3 hours in time is my commitment to the strategy session, and then I price accordingly. Now, for my 15-minute consult, it's a much shorter meeting, smaller questions, less prep time, less follow-up time. So I price accordingly. Now, this might be, if you're a bit more junior, you might decide that you need a little bit more prep time, a little bit more follow-up time. And so you also bill at an hourly rate. So take your hourly rate, figure out how much time you're going to spend per consult, and price like that if you'd like. Now, you might decide eventually that you need to factor in some additional admin time that's incurred because of these, but I encourage you not to get too granular at first. Set a price for that full amount, and then you can tweak it later. So this is just like a side note. Before you get too fancy with your pricing plans, I'll just save you a world of trouble. Clients don't want subscriptions, they don't want packages at the outset, and they don't want commitment. They want one and done to start with. This is just the truth. There's been a lot of years figuring that out. So unbundling and legal coaching means no commitment. If they wanted commitment, they would have hired you full rep. This no commitment benefits you and it benefits the client. So if you provide a good service that the client needs, they will come back again for more services. And they might, in time, commit to a larger package. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what's worked for my practice, okay? So what I start with is, for every new consult client, they're required to do a strategy session. I won't let them book in for a short 15-minute consult until they've done a strategy session. And the strategy session is an hour and a half long and it costs $600 plus tax. So as part of that package, I spend about up to an hour reviewing the materials that they send in. So they'll complete an intake form and perhaps send some additional documents, if any. And then I will prepare a follow-up report and package for them to review after the end of the meeting. So initially, clients might be a bit concerned. They say, oh my God, you're charging $400 an hour for your time. And I strongly discourage them from thinking about my time as an hourly rate, okay? And then I explain, look, there are a lot of unseen services so that you can get value out of this meeting, right? There's the preparation time and there's the follow-up time. So there's a clear value of $600. And again, I just discourage them from thinking of my time in an hourly way. Now, before you freak out, you're probably thinking, oh my God, she's charging $200 an hour for her time. Take a breath, okay? I deliberately priced my initial intake session at much less than I could command at my hourly rate. You don't have to. You can charge whatever you want. I do this for a reason. I believe it gets clients in the door. It is a getting to know you session. It gives me the chance to really get into the legal issues that I want to know and get all the details and the facts that I really want to know and understand, so that I can ensure that every future consult session is going to be successful for my client. So obviously, there's no guarantee there's going to be future consult. It's a one and done session, and I need to make sure that my client's getting concrete answers at that initial meeting. And not a, well, it could be this, but it could also be that. We need clear, concrete answers and steps, right? So there might be a little bit of a, well, it could be this, it could be that at the meeting, but then there's a bit of time for discussion so that you know where the client wants to go. I've got a bit of a skookum follow-up package for the strategy session clients. First, I do all my strategy sessions by Zoom, and I record the Zoom session, and they got a copy of that Zoom recording. In addition, I take time to do a written follow-up report that's unique to that client. And so in that report, we'll include the key pieces that are unique to their situation, the key piece of advice that are unique to their situation, and also the steps that we decided that they wanted to take. So I write out in some detail kind of the actionable steps and how to do it. Lastly, at this initial meeting, they get a general information sheet with all the basic legal information that I've taken the time to share with them at the meeting. Now, this is a precedent that I've built up over years. It started out as a one-page thing and has evolved into, I don't know, 5 pages. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You don't need that to start with. But as you are giving advice and writing out advice to clients, you might take the time to save the general pieces to a precedent. If you're really interested in learning how to build your library, I can do an additional video. Now, for further consults, after that initial intake session, I have the flat rates for future follow-up consults, as we discussed. And so for each of these, again, I'm preparing in advance. I'm having the phone call. These are typically phone calls, not Zoom. If I need to be looking at a document with a client, I will do it by Zoom. Okay, so for after the intake session, then I have, as I said, the 15-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute, or 1-hour phone call. I make sure that my admin person sends out an email in advance so I'm very clear before the client gets on the call what it is they want to discuss. And in my preparation time, I'm writing out that little advice sheet. And then I get on the call with client and I discuss, like I get right to it. Maybe I ask a few questions, but we get right to kind of where I think we're going. And that's how the initial session really informs the follow-up consults. So if there's going to be a need for some additional preparation, then there will be a discussion with the client in advance and a discussion about how much they want to pay for. But typically, I would say 98% of the time, I am able to just read an email and go into the phone call and then have a quick follow-up report. Okay. So just to summarize, if you take the time to carve out the lengths of meetings that you want to have and figure out how much preparation and follow-up time you're going to need for executing those meetings, then you should be able to easily choose a price for that amount of time that you're going to spend per consult. Once you have that, you can create a little price list for your admin person and you can share that with them so that when they're doing intake phone calls or discussing with people, they can offer those services to these potential clients. Obviously, there's a lot more that I've learned in 7 years. It wasn't just this. There is how do you manage all this stuff? How do you build up your library? How do you do other services beyond just the consult? Because there certainly are other services you can offer. If any of this is intriguing or interesting to you, send me a message privately or contact our office. I would be happy to put together a course or similar or do some live webinars if there is an interest in learning a little bit more about how to build a successful legal coaching and unbundled legal service practice.